Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. If you remember in the last video, I had built the upper assembly to hold the top flywheel. And in this video, what we're going to do now is build the brackets that are going to hold that into place. And also allow it to be adjusted for blade tension and all those other important details like alignment and stuff like that. So this bracket here is the first cross bracket that's going to go between the two major arms, and also it's going to have the two holes drilled in it, the two half-inch holes, which are going to allow me to adjust the height and tension on the blade. Now the first hole I'm just going to drill the same as all the others by lining it up with the edge, and they're all one by one, so it's easy to do. But the second one, instead of doing it the usual way, what I did is I bolted it, as you can see there, into place, and then squared it all up to make sure it was good and square, and then I'm going to drill the second hole. Now once they're all aligned like that, I can still just do the flip and drill for the second one. So that will give me the two top holes, and then what I need to do here is one of the things I think I'm going to need to do is you can barely see the scratches I marked on there for lining up the holes. What I'm going to probably do in the future is get the bluing or some other form of marker to color up the top of the plates so you can actually see the scratches better. They are actually lined up properly, but it's hard for you guys to see. So what I've done here is I took that upper assembly, squared it up in the middle of this, and then marked the other dimensions of that onto this plate. And then took that, and from that I measured where these holes are centered, and then just a matter of drilling them through. So that's going to get bolted onto the two upper arms. And then the other thing I need to do, because there's going to be a fair amount of downward pressure on this, is I need to make a couple of angle arms. So these are just going to be side brackets that are going to go down the side at 45 degrees, and they're going to keep it from deflecting. So what I've done here is, because again it's 45 degrees and it's all one by one, I have marked out the edge from the edge here just down an inch, and then it's all square, so I just have to square it all up, and I'm going to use a micrometer and be way more accurate than I need to be to position these holes. But again, it's just like trying to avoid compounding errors, and then if you know, each one's off by a little bit, so on and so forth. Eventually may end up with you know, a sufficient wobble or something, or a misalignment in the wheels, and I'm trying to avoid as much of that as possible so I don't have to do any fixing later on. So yeah, I've just matched up all of these holes here. It's all, like I said, it's all very straightforward marking, but I haven't really shown much marking yet of how I mark things up, so I managed to get the light reasonably accurate here this time so you can actually see the marks, so I figured I'd include that. Now this is the same arm I was drilling in the last segment. It's just been turned 90 degrees, and you'll notice that those two holes are narrower. The reason for that is so the bolts can pass by each other, and also that was the reason why I chose a wider plate for the top section, so that, like I said, the holes don't end up banging into each other. Now the back arm there has been taken off, and well, actually they both have been, but I haven't bothered reassembling the back one yet because I need to drill the holes for that one still. And also, you notice this bracket is really long. The reason for that is in one go I did both sides. You can see the holes on the other one. I didn't want to waste too much material, so I didn't want to cut it before I knew how much material is to lop off. So I've cut the first one now, and then I bolted on the second one, and I will mark that, and that will give me an accurate dimension for that. And of course, I can't have a machining video without me showing off the belt sander. It's actually really useful, but you don't really need to see this stuff, I suppose. So I've bolted those on now, and the other thing I did is I made sure that the upper arm is square to the vertical arm. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the whole assembly, and as you can see here, I'm going to drill it in place. That way I don't have to worry about any sort of mess up in the alignment of holes. And the only other thing that's different here this time is I'm drilling all the way through, you can see, because I just couldn't figure out a way of drilling that hole and then taking, well, flipping it or anything. It's just, it just wouldn't work. So again, I've bolted that hole in place, make sure everything stays where it needs to be, and to make sure everything's square, and then I'm just going to drill the second hole and then just do the reassembly. Now the exciting part now is this is pretty much all I need to do before I can put the upper wheel on and then attach the actual blade for the bandsaw and for the first time fire this up with actually with everything in place and working, which is really cool. So here we go, this is the upper assembly. Those are the two holes that the half-inch bolts are going to fit through, and you can see how the bolts miss each other there, and those brackets again will be the more for the downward pressure. Now maybe the hard part in this design is to take the blade out. I need to remove that arm off. It doesn't take long. It only took me like maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes to actually do the whole attachment for the entire blade. But I don't know, maybe because I'm trying to get too much in the way of added security as far as getting proper tension, like proper direction of tension on the wheels and that sort of stuff. I mean, I could have just done it from one side, but this way it balances out the forces on it more. I don't know. We'll see how it all works out in the end. So again, to do the top one, I actually have to take off the 2 of the arms to slide in the blade. And the funny thing is, when I was doing this the first time, I had set it up on top for where it goes on the bandsaw, but I had forgotten to flip it over. And I originally had this set up so that the thicker part was on the bottom, and I put the blade on. I realized that you do it that way, it doesn't even hold the blade, which is kind of funny. I was actually going to use that as a blooper at the end, but the video was getting way too long, so I figured I'll just talk about it instead. So anyway, all I need to do now is reattach to these. I'm not really going to any detail, as you can see, as far as tightening them up beyond hand tight. A lot of this is going to need to be adjusted afterwards, so I just wanted to make sure everything was in the proper position. And now what I'm going to do here is take the 2 bolts. They're half-inch bolts. I'm going to feed them through, and then what we're going to do here is the vast majority of the travel is going to be in the upper direction. So all I'm going to do here is just put it in so that it just barely fits through, so the bolt has threads on it, and then feed them up through the upper arm, and then put on the other bolts. So when I tighten well, you'll see in a second, it'll be the topmost bolts, the ones that will be tightened the most, and those are the ones that are going to drag this up, and that will give me the tension on the blade and also centering for this. Now, when I was building this, here you can see it more clearly now, because those bolts are going to be the ones on the bottom. And then I was thinking that when I was originally building this, where you can see the 2 brackets there, the angle brackets going down on the side, I was thinking that I was going to have an additional bracket going down vertically to the half-inch bolt that's going through the center of the flywheel, and then I was going to have a travel spot for that, and then that would give me more lateral stability. But as it turns out so far, I don't think that's going to be necessary, because what I've done is I've tightened this up all the way, and it doesn't seem to have much in the way of wobble in it. Now I tried to show how this gets tightened. Those 2 bolts are just tightened down, and I left travel space there, and all I do is tighten these to drag it up. But I was holding it by hand because the tripod was too far away, and it just wasn't working. So anyway, the process was to tighten those bolts up, and then here we go, got them all done now, and I have not adjusted anything at this point. All I've done is just put it on, and I just wanted to see if it would work. And it does, which is kind of cool, but there's way too much wobble in the blade. I haven't adjusted any of the flywheels or anything. But what I'm going to do now is, what I need to do is the top wheel, because it is thinner than the bottom wheel, the top wheel is actually too far to the right. So I am going to need to adjust that by moving it to the left. And also I need to have a bit more blade tension here, so I'm going to have to find a way of getting this to adjust a bit so I can have a bit more travel in this, which is either going to have to mill the top part of that or adjust the bottom one. So that'll be in the future video. So anyway, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of sound of this actually running, which is kind of cool. It's actually quite quiet. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. And like I said, I'll just leave you with the sound of this thing running. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.